while we were there, one of the people that we met with was one of the vice presidents of Iran. And we said to him, is Iran trying to develop nuclear weapons? And his answer was, if we went to the top of the highest mountain in the world and swore on the lives of every single human being on this planet that we weren't trying to develop nuclear weapons, nobody would believe us. And I thought that's sort of an interesting statement. I don't usually believe politicians, but I thought, would one find a British politician making that statement? This year, Britain has committed itself to another renewal of Trident. And so we are committed to having a long-term nuclear future. And I think as a little fact that one ought to be going on with is that at the moment the International Atomic Energy Authority are in Iran, and they've had this whole process of inspections, and these inspections are just coming to a head. The IAEA has said that it has not found any evidence that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. And yet, it's been spun in the newspapers today that because no evidence has been found that they haven't produced nuclear weapons, it was a bit like the dodgy dossier. There was no evidence that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, so therefore that was a reason for attacking them. And there isn't any evidence, and a spin is going on. And the likelihood is that if America, in particular with the backing of Britain, goes ahead in attacking Iran, it's going to be within the next 4 months to 6 months, that window of opportunity. And I think that this whole gloss and complication of what is happening and what the debate is about is just a way of buttering us up to be fearful about Iran. I think the point is that you go back to 9/11 and it was already decided that Iran was going to be attacked, and reason after reason gets rolled out, and at the moment the reason is Iran's nuclear program. And Iran is a member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's signed up to that treaty. And Britain is signed up to that treaty. America is signed up to that treaty. That treaty is a commitment on the part of all the members, if they have nuclear weapons, to go through a process of getting rid of those nuclear weapons. Our country has signed that treaty and is increasing its amount of nuclear weapons. We're not going through a process of getting rid of our nuclear weapons. The other aspect of that treaty is that it legally gives the right to all the countries that are signed to that treaty that if they are not nuclear weapon owning countries, that they have the right to share nuclear energy information. And Iran was sold all its nuclear facilities by Britain and America in the 1970s under the Shah, when it was a nice tyranny. And it has been using that equipment since. It is surrounded on all sides by nuclear weapon-holding countries that are not members of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's got India, it's got Pakistan, it's got Israel, it's got the Soviet Union. All around it there are countries that have nuclear weapons. There is no examination of their nuclear materials, there is no examination of their nuclear policies, and there is no commitment on them to get rid of them. And yet, America last month has declared unilateral sanctions on Iran because it can't prove that it is not producing nuclear weapons. And yet, they lifted the sanctions that they were on Pakistan and India because they're useful political countries. All those countries surrounding are useful countries to the West. And it's not a matter of a commitment to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty on behalf of Britain and America. It's a commitment to finding a reason for attacking Iran. And if one looks, Mel was talking earlier about how Iraq, 1.2 million people have died violent deaths in Iraq. And I think the interesting thing about that is when we talk about Rwanda, we say that was genocide, 1 million people killed. And that is seen as 1 million people with machetes chopped each other out. How savage and awful. 1.2 million people have been killed in Iraq with taxpayers' money. I think that sort of horror is a worse sort of horror, because we are complicit in that. And if a military attack does happen on Iran, America was threatening to bomb the two main nuclear facilities, the reprocessing facility and the other facility, Isfahan and Natanz. And those are two major, well, Isfahan is a major city in Iran, a major population area, and Natanz is a little town nearby. If those facilities are attacked, as America has threatened to use small nuclear weapons to destroy those facilities, the Physicians for Social Responsibility made a mathematical model of what would happen if those two towns were bombed. And they found that within 48 hours, 2.6 million people would be killed immediately. And after that, the radioactive plume would spread across Iran and into Afghanistan and Pakistan. So the need to try to educate ourselves and to try to stop what Britain and America are trundling towards at the moment is absolutely crucial. And I think we're probably so horrified with the war that has been happening in Iraq and Afghanistan that it feels like this is just so repugnant, one can't even imagine our government's going ahead with this. And yet it's one of those things of there's a window of opportunity. Bush has to do it before it becomes politically impossible. And there are two governments that are sort of tottering with internal problems themselves, and to secure the Middle East future in a way that they want it will be very convenient. And so, I mean, I think the thing is partly to be educating ourselves and to be understanding sort of the underlying things that are happening in Iran. And just a sort of piece of advertising, I would say, you know, keep in touch with Hastings Against War. There's lots of pieces of paper around about. There are JMV briefings. I went to Iran with Justice Not Vengeance, and we produce a lot of briefings just sort of covering what's happening in Iran, and you can download them off the internet as well, so have a look at those. And I think the thing is, I suppose, like me saying, I'm an artist, and I just thought, how within my realm can I try to affect what's happening? And I think in every single job area, one could discuss with people, one can try to create little areas in which, within daily life, one is trying to understand what's happening in the world and to be trying to communicate with one's neighbours and friends. And if you want to read more about Iran, there's a lot in this catalogue of the exhibition, and this is also a newspaper. This man's a bit bored by war, but never mind.
I'm bored.
I am.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm fucked off by war.
Yeah.
There's more news can be got from this paper if you want to subscribe. And lastly, not to forget all those children in Iraq who are dying, who are suffering, who are now being forced out of the country and are in a refugee state, to support some of those children by supporting this charity, that Child Victims of War, that Hastings musicians have kindly given their time for.